Welcome students. In this today's session, so we will continue with the remaining part which is left in the previous class. Fine. So we continued with the main topic, that is what you can say the activity planning. In that activity planning, we have come across the different type of what you can say the sequencing and scheduling of the activities, how it can be performed, how it will be evaluated, and what is required in case of what you can say the selecting the software development lifecycle for each and every that particular task. So now, so also we have gone through how you are going to formulate a network model. Yes. So why this network model is required? Basically, each and every activity in a project, fine. Yesterday we had discussed based on the what you can say the different type of what you can say the approaches for sequencing and scheduling of the project, fine. So first one is based on what you can say the activity based, and then next one is what you can say the product based, and next one is hybrid based, fine. So activity based means you are going to break down that particular project in a different type of segments, fine, and you are going to assign the work to each and every what you can say the expert person who is very good at that particular work. Then you start working in it, fine. So in that complete project duration, there are what you can say the different type of what you can say the segments and the different type of modules. They are dependent on each other, and some cases you are going to share the resources which are common to both the modules, fine. So that resources yesterday we had discussed, it may be in the form of money, that may be in the form of what you can say the manpower, that may be in the what you can say in the other sense it will be a tools and technology which may common to the different type of modules, fine. And another this thing or some of the tools which are available in the market which will help us for developing and also for the testing purpose, fine. So while sharing the resources, you should take care of the appropriate sequencing and scheduling of the activities, and based on that you are going to perform and you are going to take the work done by the employees or the what you can say the people, those who involved in that particular project. So in this case we have come across one kind of a network, fine. So what is that network is? So what are the different type of modules involved in it, how many people are involved in it, fine. So what is the sequence which need to be performed or which need to be started at the very first or the earlier stage, fine. So what are the requirements of the customer? Based on that you are going to deliver only that much module to the market at similar time. So then you do the increment to that a particular model and send the updates to the customer based on that particular software. That also is on one part. So here we do have a sequence or the series of what you can say the activities which integratedly working on a particular project. So here you can observe one kind of this thing. So where your the different type of activities involved in that project. Okay, so now we will have a concept, fine. So that is constructing a precedence network, fine. Constructing a precedence network, again we start with the different type of nodes, which is the start node, which is the end node. What are the different type of what you can say the activities you have scheduled for the different type of what you can say the modules, fine. So in other sense it is the sequence you can take. So for sequence 1, fine. So then it will be a module 2, then module 3, module 4, and some sequences or what you can say some of the modules they are independent of the other what you can say the modules, so they can develop or build parallelly based on the resources available over here, fine. So here they have taken one of the example where this is they have mentioned this first of all for the specification, specify the overall system, fine, specify the overall system. Then so overall system means it includes a different type of what you can say the modules. So this is specification, specify for module A. So similarly this is specification for module B, this is specification for module C, and this is specification for module D. So whenever it comes to the specification part, so there are different modules involved in that particular project. So you have to do the specification, and in the other sense it will be a requirement, it can be a what you can say the feasibility study which is required to that, and which sequence has to be performed first, and whether it is possible to run those specification parallelly or not based on the resources available. So that is up to the team manager or the what you can say the management team. Fine. So when it comes to the overall specification, the different modules involved, for example, we have taken A, B, C and D. The specification for all these modules can be integrated, and then it comes to the overall specification of that particular project. Fine. After the specification, we will come across the design part. Fine. So this they have mentioned, this part is for design of module A, module B, module C, and this is for module D. Fine. Then after the designing part, so then they have mentioned an bidirectional what you can say the arrow. We will go through this. It may be code and test segment for module A again, B, C and D. After the completion of code and test for each and every module, so then it will go for an integrate test, of the, or you can set as complete system, and after this there may be a delivering of that particular project. Fine. So here in case of a constructing model, we will come across the different type of terms which you need to understand it, then only it will be easy for you to understand how it is working. Fine. So first one is start node, end node. Fine. Start node, end node. Third one is links. Fourth one is nothing but your precedence activity. That is what the constructing a precedence network. Precedence activity, it is a network of different activities which involved in that. Fine. Then it comes the time constraint. Fine. After the time constraint, we may come across the loops. Fine. Loops. Okay. Then it will be an dangles. We will discuss all these terms one by one. Dangles. Okay. So what are these actually indicating? Fine. So whenever it comes to one specific project, we have to have what you can say the precedence network. Fine. What is this precedence network? This is a network which involves in the activities, you know, or you can say it as an precedence activity network. So that you can call it as precedence network. Fine. So here the precedence is given to each and every activity which needs to be performed first, which needs to be what you can say the performed next, and the order you can say it as the in which you are going to execute the each and every modules or each and every activity in that. Fine. So first one is the start node. This you can say it as activity on node. Fine. Activity on arrow. In other sense you will be come across that is activity on nodes. Fine. So this activity on node, that also can be called as activity on node. Fine. We will discuss. So first one is the start node, then end node. Fine. So here this is the normal scenario what they have taken for each and every activity. The first one is the specification. So whenever there is, this is you can state as an start node. This is my start node, and this is you can state as my end node if all the activities are done with that particular network or completed by that particular network. So start activity means any one of the what you can say the activity which is ready to proceed Okay, if what you can say the resources are available to execute that particular what you can say the activity, then you can start with the that particular initial or that start node can take initiation and you can start with the project. So at least one of the activity which is ready to proceed with, then you can go for the start node, or else there are some situations which are parallelly you can run if the resources are available. So in that case you can start with 2 or more modules subsequently which are independent in nature in the project. So in that case at a same start node you can start with the 2 or more what you can say the different type of activities. So here what we are doing, this simple what example they have taken. So this is the system specification. That system or the project involves the different modules, the A, B, C and D. Fine. So when it comes to the overall specification of the system, it includes the specification for A, then specification for B, then specification for C and also the specification for D. This is required because of the sharing of the resources and based on whether they are dependent on each other or independent on each other. So if they are dependent on each other means the previous the what you can say the node or the segment is going to give some input to its next or the predecessor or the next the subsequent activity which is following that previous activity. So in that case, if you are expecting some kind of a, what you can say the input from the previous node or the previous activity means you cannot proceed further. So in that case it is very much important. So when it comes to the system specification, the specification for all the what you can say the models and the activities which involved in that you are going to come up with. So this is indicating the overall what you can say the specification for that. So then it comes the design part of that particular this thing. So instead of what you can say the without the having the knowledge of the specification, you cannot start with the designing of that. Fine. That designing may include the what you can say the different type of modules. Fine. You may come across the class diagram, sequence diagram, use case diagram, activity diagram, DFD, that is data flow diagram, and the complete system diagram. So without having knowledge of that specification, who are all the actors, who are all the use cases, what are all the objects involved in that particular scenario, you cannot start with the designing part. So once I am done with the complete specification of the system, then I will start with the design part for that particular what you can say the project. That also includes design for module A or activity A, B, C and D. Fine. So after the completion of the design, then I will move to what you can say the code and testing part of that particular modules. Fine. After the design, after the specification, it will be on design. Then after the design, I will go to what you can say the code or test part of that. What you can say the different activities. So here you can observe I have mentioned the integrated test for the system. So integration test means I need to have a complete information or I need to have a complete testing what you can say the output for each and every the modules which constitutes that particular project. So in that case I do require test cases and the code for A, B, C and D. Together all 4 I can commence with the integration test for that particular system. So that is how there are what you can say in another this thing in a real case scenario we will go through one example. Fine. So where a person who is having a what you can say the land of 5,000 square feet. Fine. So he has showed that particular 5,000 square feet to a builder. Now builder what he is doing, he is planning for to build and what you can say the different type of the models where he can sell it to the customers. Fine. So this particular 5,000 square foot, so he distributed among see some for villas and some is for the regular what you can say the independent house. For example, independent house, and for some example let us take flats. Fine. So in this available 5,000 what you can say the square foot, so he planned what you can say let us take 60/40, that is 2,400 square feet for out of this 5,000 square feet. So for villas he has assigned 60/40 some size. Fine. So for independent house again it will be 1200, let us take for example, so that is 30 into 40, fine. And even for flats, so he plans to build the flats, obviously it will be in a vertical this thing, so that also for the 1200, that is 30 into 40, 40 plot he has allocated to the flats, and remaining 200, fine, the remaining 200 for some other gardening or something, fine. When builder starts to, what you can say, starts working with this, fine, okay, this, so he has a complete, what you can say, the information regarding how much square feet he will be having. So what is the built up area and what is the super built up area for that, fine. Then he have a, what you can say, the different type of modules, fine, and he is going to build a different type of modules and the specification. So this is one of the specification that he distributed, what you can say, the some area, that is 60-40 is he dedicated into the villas, fine. Then it may to the independent house he has given the 1200 square foot, that is 30-40 what you can say the plot, and for the flats also he has given 1200 square foot. This is what you can say one kind of a rough idea, and the specification where he allocated or the distributed the area to build this thing. So after, what you can say, this idea, he has to come up with the modules, fine. So he has to build a one module where he has to fit the complete diagram. Whenever a customer comes and approaches him, he should be in a position to explain, okay, this is my complete area, fine, and this is the size of the villas, and what are the interior design, decoration, what is the full-fledged super built-up area for that villa and all, he need to explain. Then for the flats, fine, and then for the independent houses, how much area he has allocated, fine. Then the transportation, fine, and another thing is, what you can say, the water supply, then the electrical supply, and what are the quality of material or the something he is investing in that. Then also based on the, what you can say, the customer requisition, the plan can be modified, because some customer they wanted what you can say their own, what you can, ideas need to be implemented, or the suggestion need to be implemented while building those particular flats or something. In that, while the preparation part only, the customer come and give their opinion and something feedback, that is, I want like this, the model is to be built like that. So then he also can take the requisition from the customer, the materials, how much money he is investing. In that case, if he is investing a money in case of all the materials, if we take it in a bulk, see, suppose for example, the cement is required, the brick is required, or else in the soil, sand, something which is required to build up that what you can say, these individuals. So for that we do require the materials. If we take it in a bulk, fine, so then he will be in a profitable side. If he purchases differently for villas, independent and flats or something, so he will be in a loss. Even in case of the, what you can say, the people who are involving in the, what you can say, the laborers who are developing these many individuals, so that also need to be pay their salary also. So he need to think in that way where he can get the profit, and as well as he should give some, what you can say, the quality to the customer. It should be balanced in both the ways. So this is how the system requirement and all need to be analyzed, what is required, how is required, how I need to proceed. Okay, so then even example, the iron, that rod is that is required to build the this thing. So whatever rates, whatever money he is investing, whatever, so based on that he is going to what you can say, set the amount for those particular flats and villas and flats. So that is based on, so if for example you can take this one example for the villa, flat, and another thing you can compare it with the independent houses. So specification, he need to, what you can say, collect the information which is required, what is required, how much you need to be invested, what are the profitable sides of him that he need to invest, and he need to think for that. After the specification, then he will move for the designing part of all those things. So even there also he need to think how much is the design required, so which is the customer side, what customer is expecting, that each and every part he has to, what I can say, analyze in the design part. So then it comes to the testing part, so he can analyze what is the quality of that, then he can start working with the this thing. So once it done with the complete, what you can say, the project, then only you can say it as it's an end node, or in other subsequences also it may say that the end node, if he does with only one particular task, that also can be an end for that particular task. So here there are two, what you can say, the scenarios. Fine. The start node is only for one module. If he proceeds with that particular module or segment, then he can state that it's an, what you can say, the start of that project, or all together he can start. This is two kind of a scenario where he can start the project. Fine. So if it is dependent and independent, what you can say, the scenario or the module, based on that can be started. And end node, so this is what you are looking for, the end node. So basically if he completes all the, what you can say, the work assigned and whatever is planned as per the project, then only you can achieve the end node, or some part of that activity he can, what you can say, they reveal it to the customer, or to reveal it to the market. See, suppose for example, in between, so he has planned the design and everything is ready, but in between he is facing some economical, what you can say, the problem. In that case, he left with, what you can say, the villas and independent houses in between for some time. When he gets the money, then he started working on that, but in between he stops this for 1 month or 2 months, this thing, and if he is getting more profit in the flats or something, then he starts building the flats. So that is how. So if he completes the flat, this part, and he left this in between for some time, so that can be, what you can say, delivered to the customer as per the customer requisition. That also can be an end node for some module for that project. So based on that, start node and end node can be analyzed in a project. Fine. Then it comes the links. What are these links? Links are the relationship, okay? Links establish the relationship between the nodes. So here you can observe, I have a node 1, node 2, node 3, 4, 5, 6. We do have a different type of nodes mentioned over here. The links, you can observe this arrow which establishes the relationship between these two nodes or these nodes, that can be considered as your links. Fine. Then precedence activity. What is that precedence activity? See, suppose for example, just now we discussed, after the completion of the 3, that is the specification, then we can go for the design part of the different modules or something. So that is nothing but what you can say, the precedent activity, which is depend on the previous activity. Fine. Then time, obviously. So here we have not mentioned any kind of this thing, but time which flows from left to right direction. Obviously you cannot come back. Some of the plans can be revised in between, but time will move from left to right in this case, okay, from start to end, obviously. And based on that, the time allocation is also a very important task over here. Which type of which type of a module, fine, which type of a module expects what type of time, fine, that can be analyzed in this particular duration. Okay. Fine. Okay, next one is we done with the start node, end node, precedence activity. Then it will be another this thing, we will go through the precedence activity. What is the example they have mentioned? Fine. So then this is my program test. And this is my installation. And then it proceeds with the further this thing. So here you can observe what you can say, we do have a code, we do have a data take on, or else you can say it as a data, fine, then a program test, and then the installation. So here these are the normal scenario which needs to be followed in each and every project, fine, especially in case of your software project. So here the precedents are the, what you can say, the immediate preceding activities, fine, the program test, fine. Here you can observe the program test cannot start until both code and data take on have been completed, and activity install cannot start when the program test has been finished, fine. So here you can observe the what you can say, the working procedure you can observe. So what is this precedence network? Precedence network, here you can observe the two different, or what you can say, the different activities involved in that. So code and the data take on. So these two giving inputs to the program test, fine. Without code and without data you cannot proceed with the data, the program test, fine, and without the program test you cannot go with the installation of this thing. So this is the precedence network. So the activity which is depend on its previous this thing, and it is expecting some kind of input, and without that you cannot proceed further, that can be identified as your precedence network. Here also the time, what you can say, it moves from left to right direction, fine. Then loops. Okay, so we will go through another kind of, what you can say, the simple diagram for the loops to understand. What are the loops? In some sense, loops you can say it as an errors, fine, an errors or in some sequences it will be represented as an impossible sequence. So that you are not going to mention, but they are eating your time, fine. That is what is your loop, fine. Same code, they have mentioned test of the program, then release of the program, fine, release of the program. In case of a test program they have mentioned diagnose, errors, then it comes rectifying and diagnosing is done there and correct the errors, fine. Then it comes the, what you can say, again for the test part. So here you can observe the phases involved in case of, what you can say, the loop. We are discussing about the loops and dangles, fine. What do you mean by loops over here? The loops are nothing but in one sense you can say it as a loop is an error in that it represents a situation that cannot occur in practice. Yes, of course, we will discuss, fine. Then while loops in the sense the iteration, fine, may occur in the practice and they cannot what you can say, be directly represented in a project network, fine. In some sequence it is an impossible sequence also. So here you can observe this is my path, fine. So this is my path. So for example 1, 2, 3 are my main, what you can say, the activity which involved in that precedence network. So this is my path, but loops indicating that, so what are the, what you can say, the invisible, what you can say, the errors which involved in the execution of the project. See for example, see code, it will be there, test and release. So after the completion of the code, it will comes to the testing part of that particular project. In that test part, your code and the whatever software you have developed, that may succeed or that may failure in that case, fine. So this is loop, what you are observing here, from test to diagnose the errors, again from diagnose the errors to correct the errors, then again it will go for the test. So we exactly don't know how many iterations will occur for this particular loop, Fine. So now I think you understood what do you mean by loop. So exactly we don't know, it may succeed, then we may proceed with the releasing of the project, or sometimes again if we may fail in this, again it will go to the diagnose and we need to rectify the errors, then it will go to the testing phase of that. That loop, exactly this part is not visible in your project execution, only it will be in the testing phase. But in the testing phase, how many loops you are going to include to rectify that error and to come up with the solution for that particular what you can say the error, we will not know. So this indicating a loop. Fine. So it is not physically what you can say, you can mention that particular this thing, but in case of testing it is taking too much time to execute or to rectify or to diagnose the error. So that is what, how it is working. So that is your what you can say the loops. Fine. After the this thing, so it will be what you can say the dangling. Fine. What is this dangling? So you are hanging between two. Fine. What is that dangling? In a network you should contain a dangles, not contain a dangles. A dangling activity such as write a user manual, fine, not exist are likely to read the errors in a subsequent analysis. Fine. Design, they have mentioned code, test and install a program. So that also we will go through. Fine. So they have mentioned what you can say for the dangling, we'll express. So this is for the loop, what now we have gone through for. Fine. So for the dangling they have mentioned so design part. Fine. So after the design, the code of the program, test program or release or install they have mentioned over here. Fine. In case of code, write user manual. Fine. What is this user manual is indicating? So it is a kind of dangling or what you can say you are hanging between two what you can say the activity which is performing in a same time or this thing. So you should not have that type of a dangling or hanging between two activities. Fine. So let us go through what you can say in deep. Fine. A dangling is a subsequent analysis, error in a subsequent analysis. Indeed, many cases dangling activities indicate errors in a logic and when activities are added in a afterthought. So you have already what you can say the proceed with that, then you will be having what you can say the mind idea in your mind saying that okay, I have to work on that, so I should work on that, so this is left. So that is nothing but your dangling. You should not come up for the dangling in between the project status. See, suppose for example, in case of the extreme programming or in case of what you can say the agile methods, a rapid development of the software is there. Fine. So there for every week or for what you can say the every 10 days or for every 15 days or you can say it as generally in every month, what you can say the increment to that particular software is going to be adapted in that. So it is very rapidly development in that. So in that case we are not going for what you can say the documentation will not be maintained each and every time. It is a tedious job. Fine. So whenever you make some changes, fine. So because you are working on it, you are doing the trial and error on that particular software. So you won't go for what you can say the maintain a user manual. Only the thing is what you can say one general manual you are going to maintain and what are the different type of what you can say the problems you have come across during the execution of the program. So that can be analyzed and that can be mentioned over there, but the complete user manual you won't maintain in that case. So you are dangling with some of this thing. Okay, so you've done with the design part, code is done, then you are working with the test part, then you forgot to maintain what you can say doing or the maintaining the user manual in between. So it is better once you're done with design, code, test, and after the installation or something, when everything is working properly, then you can go for the user manual because you are done with each and every task which is involved in that particular project. Now you are in a position to write the what you can say the exact what you can say the user manual what is required in that. But in between we are not done with the testing and the installation. After the code, you cannot parallelly run this, write the user manual for that particular product. So it is better once you done with that particular what you can say, all the activities which involved in that, which comes in a sequence. After the installation, you do have a complete set of test ideas, which are the problems you have faced, what is the solution you found for that, then you will come across for the user manual. So that is the best, what you can say, after the completion of the installation of this thing. So you should not be in a, what you can say, the dangling, you should not have a hanging decision or something in between. After the completion of that, you can come up with the user manual. So that is what is your dangling. Fine. So that is nothing but your dangling. So in other case, activity on node network. So in the activity of node network, we have gone through the different type of start node, end node, links, precedence activity, time, how it is involving in that, what you mean by loops and what you mean by dangles in that. So how they are, what you can say, the producing a kind of, what you can say, the hurdle or in the obstacle in case of your project. Fine. So then activity on arrow. Fine. And another one, what you can say, one short the topic which is there, which is nothing but a shortening of the project duration. So here you can recall the your memory when we have gone through the forward pass and the backward pass. Fine. In the forward pass, okay, we are going to calculate the early start and the late start, and in case of your backward pass, we have identified the late start and the early start or something. Fine. For the end, I'm not sorry, early late end of that particular this thing, then that value can be analyzed in case of your backward this thing, early start, late start, early end, late end. So that value we have identified using the, what you can say, the backward and the forward pass. So how we are going to use the shortening of the project duration. Shortening the project okay. How we are going to perform the shortening of the project duration? So here one is you can apply, what you can say, by having an critical path. Fine. By having an critical path, by after the performing your forward pass and backward pass, we will get to know what is the critical path for the critical path for that particular project. So using which you will come across which are the, what is the total float for which activity. So what you can say, the resources from the nodes which involved in the non-critical path, the resources of those nodes can be shared to the activity which involved in the critical path, so that there should not be any delay in the execution of the project. So whenever it is required, so because we do have a time span to start with that particular project. See, you may come across that total float is 6 hours or 6 days or something. So instead of starting it from the first day, if you start from the 6th day, there won't be any alteration in the total project duration. So that is nothing but the activity which involved in the non-critical path. So in that case, you can share the resources with the critical activity so that they can be complete their task in the given duration or time. Fine. That is what is the, what you can say, you can work on the different type of resources. Again, once again, the resources involved are the manpower, then the money, time, and the another sense you can say that any tools or technology which is required for both the modules can be involved in that. That is nothing but so using that you can shorten the duration of the project. Fine. Then comes another, what you can say, the similar topic, activity on arrow network. Activity on arrow network. Fine. So activity on node, activity on arrow network, almost they are same. So here also the thing is, however activity is performing, based on that the work is getting analyzed and the network is being developed based on that. So that is how activities are performing. So that is what the working procedure of that activity will be in the serial manner. Apart from that, here also a project network may have only one start node. Fine, the start node, and we can have an end node for this particular activity arrow network. Fine. Then similarly, okay, then similarly nodes have no duration. Here the thing is, the difference between activity on node and activity on arrow, there we are going to allocate a time which is involved in each and every, what you can say, the task. So here it is only based on the activity network, not on the node. So here nodes we are not going to mention with the time. Fine. So events, so nodes are the events such as installation at the point of time. So we are not dealing with the time span over here. So in case of your activity on arrow networks. Fine. So then it comes the same this thing that is, nodes are numbered sequentially because it is based on the activity network or activity based network. So how activities are performing, based on that activities can be what you can say, mentioned in a numbered in a sequential manner. So that is, no precise rules or about the numbering of the nodes should be numbered, so that head nodes, that is arrow end of an activity or something. So however you are going to perform with that particular activity, that comes under in that sequence. So based on that sequence you are going to order the activities. So here also loop exists, loop which comes under in the same this thing. It is existing in an impossible sequence which may not occur in the physically in the execution of the project, but it is eating your time. In that sense it can be a loop. Fine. Then in other sense, the dangles in the same format which exists in that. Fine. Then in the network analysis, each and every this thing will remain common. Only the thing is, in the activity on node we don't have, what you can say, the time span to the different nodes, and we are not restricting here the, what you can say, the different nodes with the particular sequence. As and when the activity is performed, based on that they come in that particular sequence. Rest all it will remain same for each and every node. So that is activity on arrow network, activity on node. Fine. Everything will remain same. This time, loops, dangles, links, start node, end node, how they are performing each and every network, it will be same. In other sense it is the precedence network. Fine. So in the previous class we have gone through one of the other concept, that is the CPM and the PERT. Fine. CPM, critical path method, just now we discussed. Fine. Early start, early end, late end. We are going to go through the backward pass and forward pass. That is the method which is there for your CPM, that is critical path method. Fine. Then there is another, what you can say, the method which comes with the same, this thing is nothing but your PERT. Fine. Program evaluation and review technique. Fine. This we will come across in the next unit, that is in the risk management. Fine. Thank you.